Today we're going to be talking about preservation cars and barn find cars. You know, Wayne, I've been fascinated with cars that are very preserved or maintained in their original condition for a long time, and I've been kind of slowly collecting a few examples of them. And these are two of them. One a 66 Jaguar E-Type, and the other a 51 Buick.
You know, this E-Type is unbelievable. You know, I'm really into preservation and seeing original cars and their exact original form as they left the factory. And boy, you can't get much better than this. I mean, this Jag is just spectacular. And what's really great is knowing the history of the car, knowing how it was loved. You know, so sometimes you can tell a preservation car, a well-preserved car, or something that people have maintained properly, that they've driven on a regular basis. Because sometimes if you park a car in your garage and you don't use it, it's the worst thing in the world. There's one term we all love, and that's called one owner. You know, when you find a car and it comes from its original owner, there's nothing like that. I mean, you know, what a find that is, you know.
Well, the beauty of one-owner cars, as you said, is that you can speak to that one person that absolutely knows everything. But barn finds, I mean, you must have thousands of people coming up to you and saying, oh, barn find, barn find, barn find. Why is that term so misunderstood?
Well, you know, first off, people think the car has to be in a barn, first off, to be a barn find. It really doesn't. I mean, it's just a term that we use. Unfortunately, you know, this Buick is probably a car that was put in the barn or the garage and not very well maintained, you know. The top sort of deteriorated. It might have sat outside for a period of time. The paint you can see is cracked and faded on the top, but yet on the sides where the sun didn't directly attack the paint is still pretty good. Yet it's not a car that was loved. Like the Jag, you know.
Yeah, so maybe that's kind of in a way what defines the difference between a preservation car and a barn find, right? Is that they both can be the same, you know, same car, same year, but one has just been sort of left to its own devices, and the other one shows a lot of evidence of that preservation.
Sometimes, you know, when the first owner really probably maintained and loved the car, and then it went to its second and third and fourth owners, and then everybody sort of passes down, not maintaining the car properly, and that's what happens. Where sometimes if a car stays in a family, though, a one-family situation, it's more maintained because they want to take care of what their dad or their grandfather had. You know, it's a piece of the family history, and so it's got a better chance of being well preserved.
That's right. Well, why don't we take a little closer look at a few pieces on it so that we can help people understand the difference? Okay,
that's a good idea. You know, one of the things that I really look for in a preservation car and how well a car has been maintained is the leather, is the interior of the car. You know, it's something that people don't think of, but you really have to maintain a leather interior, like hide food, really take care of it.
One little difference sometimes I've noticed has been with preservation cars is that people give tops a little bit more leeway, you know, because they did deteriorate.
It's something that, like a battery, like you can't expect the original oil to be in the car. I mean, things like that. I mean, you know, it just makes sense. But yet, to have the original leather in the car, and it gives a smell like, you know, you can't duplicate that, you know. The original carpeting, all these things make such a difference to me in a preservation car. It makes such a difference when I'm buying a car. If there was 10 cars out there, and this car was one of them, and there was 9 fully restored JCNA 100-point cars, I'd take this car any day over the other ones.
Oh, me too. I think we both agree we love preservation class cars, and it probably has a scale, right, on it, that there are cars that have been, you know, that are truly perfectly maintained, and some have had little bits and pieces, and some of it very appropriately so. But maybe we should take a closer look at that Buick and take a look at what a barn find car is and maybe what we should do next.
I think we'll have a little disagreement there.
I bet we will. Okay, at the other end of the spectrum, we have barn find cars. This is not exactly a barn find. We found this in the swap meet last year at Hershey, 51 Buick. And I bought it because I was looking for a car for the employees to restore as an example of a barn find that needed restorations.
Well, if it was me, I'd get the car running, be able to stop, put some new tires on it, you know, a new battery, change the oil, and drive it. Just the way that it is. I mean, I think this is really cool. This is a lot of people are getting really into this rat rod type of a situation or preservation barn find. You know, it's kind of cool to see a top frame too. People don't understand what top frames look like. So if it was me, I'd maybe just leave the top frame up, drive it to a few shows, maybe to do that for a year or two, and then restore it possibly. But it's a type of car that I think maybe don't even clean it. Maybe just clean the windshield a little bit and use it.
Get out there and use it.
Yeah.
The problem that I struggle with, though, with this is you either kind of have to do it or not do it. You know, I mean, as I said, I was thinking about fully restoring this car, and you know, it's really expensive to fully restore a 50s car because they have the chrome's expensive. Everything has to be touched. They're big cars, all of that sort of thing. And
when I have a client come into our restoration shop, and if they bring a project like this, we really have to look at the whole project and why the customer wants to do it. I mean, you know, so for instance, if this was his father's car and it didn't matter how much it costs to restore the car, well, that's one thing. But if it's just a Buick that he found, for instance, like in Hershey, do you spend all that kind of money? And in the end, the value, what's it going to do to the value of the car? I mean, they're only worth so much.
I don't think the car's ever going to be worth that. I mean, maybe ever, but not in any kind of recent time. And so I think that's one of those issues, the value differential between leaving it the way it is and maybe enjoying it as it is versus the full restoration.
Right.
Whereas, you know, the Jaguar, I mean, to me, it is so much more valuable in its current state than, and if you started trying to fix it or trying to restore it, you'd really be destroying some of that value.
Well, people are finally understanding that. I mean, it's only original once. And if you try to restore a completely original car that's in that great of condition, I mean, you're ruining the value of the car, you're ruining the car, you're ruining its history. So therefore, we're not going to ruin the history of this car, you know, by doing it, because we can't really follow the lineage of the car. We don't know who owned it and how many owners there were and how it was maintained, but yet a car like the Jaguar, you can't touch it.
That's right. Well, that's a very, very special car. So I think maybe to sum it all up, we could say that, you know, barn find, preservation class, there's a really renewed interest in those segments of the market, and that's cool.
And there's car shows now. There's concours that just have preserved cars and barn find cars.
Well, I think it's kind of becoming the third class of cars. It used to be that there was sort of, you know, stock restored cars, and then there were modified custom cars, and I think the third class is now preserved cars. And so it's a whole new world.
It is, and we're loving it.
That's right.